Ukrainian army stopped the massive Russian offensive. Russian army, which attacked in the Donetsk and Luhansk regions, suffered a great defeat. Russian army initially began to strike the infrastructures of the Donetsk region. Then the Russian infantry launched a multi-pronged attack on Donetsk region. The Ukrainian army directly responded to the attacks of the Russian army. As a result of the fierce clashes, Russian troops suffered many casualties. It turned out that the soldiers injured as a result of the clashes were transferred to Russia due to insufficient military doctors. A large number of wounded Russian soldiers have once again revealed that the medical teams of Russian army are also inadequate. Local sources explained that Ukrainian army repelled 10 major attacks of Russian army in the conflicts in the Donetsk region. The failures of Russian army in the region caused great difficulties in Kremlin. Ukrainian army does not stop. It also destroyed 2 artillery systems used by the Russian army in Zaporizhzhia region. In addition, more than 70 Russian soldiers were injured as a result of the attacks. The Ukrainian army bombarded the areas on the Eastern Front where it wanted to advance. The hitting of the Russian positions thus caused a new big problem in the Russian army. On the other hand, the most interesting event that has ever happened in the war took place. Belarusian helicopter hijacked. In this interesting incident, the Kar-26 helicopter was hijacked by a group from the Belarusian army. The helicopter placed on the truck traveled all over Ukraine. In an interesting incident revealed by local sources, an unidentified group smuggled Kar-26 helicopters out of Belarus. It is not known how the helicopter was removed from the territory of Belarus. Then the stolen helicopter was brought to the territory of Ukraine. The helicopter brought to the territory of Ukraine set off to be taken to Hungary. Ukrainian border guards on Ukrainian-Hungarian border were shocked to see the helicopter. The helicopter placed on top of the truck was seized by the Ukrainian forces. The helicopter, which is attempting to be taken out of Ukraine, will join the inventory of the Ukrainian army. It is not known how the helicopter was stolen from Belarusian army. The strangest part is how the helicopter was brought from Belarusian border to Ukrainian border. Experts explain that Belarusian army did not protect its borders well enough. After this incident, great turmoil broke out in Belarus. Belarusian authorities summoned military personnel to the capital to testify. It is also a very important issue that the border guards stopped the helicopter that had been traveling on the territory of Ukraine for so long. Ukrainian authorities show that necessary measures are taken to prevent any arms smuggling in their country. The latest information you get about this event is an event that should be made into a movie. A group of foreigners actually stole helicopters illegally. While local sources announced that the group that stole the helicopter was arrested, the helicopter and the truck carrying the helicopter were seized by the army. Experts also say that this is not the first time such incidents have occurred. It was revealed by the news sources that there had been several attempts to smuggle weapons before, but the Ukrainian army took the necessary precaution for such events quite well. Clashes on the Eastern Front began to intensify again. A fierce attack was also found, thanks to the new troops Wagner Group brought to the area. In the section located in the southwest of Bakhmut region, the Russian army was able to make progress. However, the Russian army started to defend the region again. With Wagner Group making little progress in the region, Ukraine's tank unit arrived in the region. It is obvious that the soldiers of Russian Wagner Group will not be able to defend the region for a very long time. We can also explain that Ukrainian defense line is still not broken. A major defeat in Bakhmut region of Russia, which does not have enough military for residential operations, is also very close. It is known that Russia, which lost all its experienced soldiers, is now quite weak in ground operations. Russian artillery units can no longer provide sufficient support to the ground operation. All critical plans of the Kremlin fell through. Kremlin, which does not have enough shells in the inventory of Russian army, can no longer provide enough support to its infantry. With this situation, it becomes clear that the Russian troops on the eastern and southern fronts will start to implement a completely defensive strategy due to the lack of sufficient ammunition. Here are the 5 biggest mistakes Russia made in Ukraine war. The news agency Insider claimed that there are few indicators that highlight the efforts of Russian military. Russia's current offensive is widely described by many experts as a failure. Initially, it wasn't long before Russian military made a mistake after Putin announced that he had started the attacks. Military analysts declared that Russian military had failed because of miscalculations, poor communication, and confused ideas. Jeffrey Edmonds, Russia expert and former military analyst, made a statement saying, "We thought they would do a much more prepared, well-thought-out operation, but that didn't happen." In the early days of the war, Russian forces were expected to combine air support with ground attack and advance with large groups of artillery, armor, and troops. Russian commanders instructed their troops to go to Kiev rather than gain the upper hand over Ukraine by conducting a powerful air campaign. That's why the Russian army faced logistical difficulties and ambushes right at the beginning of the war. The Kremlin miscalculated. It expected the Ukrainian army to give up much faster than it did, said Mason Clark, Russia analyst at the Institute for the Study of War, adding that this caused the Russian army to make inept mistakes. Putin assumed that victory would come quickly and easily and that Russian forces would capture Kiev in a matter of days. However, Russian army could not even approach the capital Kiev as Russian leader greatly underestimated Ukraine's will to fight and defend its homeland. Ukraine's fierce resistance began in the very early stages of the war. A senior U.S. defense official said Ukraine was putting up a very tough and very effective defense around Kiev, which slowed the Russian advance. Most military experts had assessed at the very beginning of the war that Russia would not be able to withstand the onslaught for long. But Ukrainian forces parried it, and in recent months 2 counterattacks in northeastern and southern Ukraine have stunned Moscow, retaking thousands of square kilometers. Ukraine's surprise counterattack in the northeastern Kharkiv region at the end of summer surprised Russia, and Ukraine's recapture of thousands of square kilometers captured was the beginning of a major back attack. The swiftness of Ukrainian offensive caused Russian forces to move away from their positions, leaving behind a large amount of weapons and ammunition. Weapons and ammunition abandoned by Russian army helped Ukraine regain its dwindling firepower. But there was so much equipment left that Ukrainian forces had to struggle to handle it all. British Ministry of Defense said at the time some Russian troops fled in apparent panic, leaving a lot of high-value equipment behind. In recent months, Russia has launched missile and drone attacks targeting Ukraine's infrastructure. These attacks, however, depleted Moscow's stocks of long-range precision ammunition. Military experts and officials said such attacks are not sustainable for Russia's limited military capabilities and are unlikely to break Ukraine's power. Top intelligence officials said Russia was running out of ammo too quickly. The use of large quantities of artillery and precision-guided munitions forced Moscow to purchase ammunition from Iran and North Korea for replenishment, officials said. British official claimed on the 9th of December that Russia wanted to buy hundreds of ballistic missiles from Iran in exchange for unprecedented military support. Days later, the senior military official claimed that Russia was running out of new shells and rockets and might have to use older, less reliable munitions. One of Putin's most important mistakes was the West's underestimation of Western unity behind Ukraine. NATO and European Union are relatively united in providing military and humanitarian aid to Ukraine and imposing comprehensive sanctions against Russia. Kremlin is completely cornered.